Hey everybody, Giant Skyhawk here, and people have been asking for this a lot, so I figured it was finally time I got to making it. This is going to be a Fluffal guide slash combo video, because I know a lot of people have expressed interest in learning the deck since I got my invite at the extravaganza, did well at 521, and then I got top 4 with an adjusted list at the last Chalice Slam monthly, and that one was a lot of fun. For the sake of this video, I'm going to use the exact list that I was piloting in the MPT video because I think that has the most intention, and it's the cheaper version of the deck, so I think it's the thing that people have been picking up. I definitely have made some adjustments, and I think it's possible that going second might be better, but this deck is still very strong, very capable, and if allowed to set up, will just absolutely blow opponents out of the water. It is difficult to learn, but it's a total blast to play. I am going to do a deck profile portion of this video, just in case this is literally the first time you have come across a single Fluffal card. I'm going to make the assumption that you have absolutely no idea what is happening, but you still want to come in and learn anyway. So if you have already seen those profiles, or if you are already experienced with the Fluffal cards and are just wondering how the intricacies of this Go First Necro Fusion build works, then I would definitely encourage you to skip this whole section of the video. Maybe watch the extra deck section just because there might be a couple of interesting things in there to listen to. And there's maybe a couple main deck pieces that you might not be familiar with as a Fluffal pilot. But aside from that, we'll get right into this. And then after this, we'll do some test hands, and I'll point out some specific scenarios that you can get yourself into and ways that you can get out of them. And I'll talk about what you can do to pivot if you see a bad hit off a vendor or something. So get started. So first off, we've got 3 copies of our very own Stratos Fluffal Dog. So Fluffal Dog is a Earth Fairy level 4. All of the main deck Fluffal monsters are fairy types. So simple, when this card is normal or special summoned from the hand, you can add an Edge Imp Sabers or a Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand, except itself. This is a hard once per turn, which is probably valid, because if it wasn't hard once per turn, we could be triggering this a lot of the time. An important thing to note is that this will only work if it's summoned from the hand, so if you summon it from the graveyard off of a cross sheet, you won't get its effect. So that is something to keep in mind when you're doing this, but very strong. This serves as your 10th, 11th, and 12th copies of Toy Vendor, because this can get Bear, which can get you Vendor. And as a consistency piece, is quite nice. Something to note is that hands where you have to normal summon this are either very cracked or very rough, so be careful with this. This is also your best hit off a vendor. Seeing a dog off a vendor to special it to add something is just the best, and it has a lot of synergy with Fluffal Sheep, so we'll get into that. But there is a universe where you might play 2 of this card. We were thinking about it in early stages of the build, but I would say, especially if you're just starting out and learning, you should absolutely play 3 Dog. That is something the Fluffal Discord was totally right about. Play 3 Dog. It's very nice. So next up, we've got 3 Fluffal Bear. Card is very simple. It gets you to Toy Vendor. You activate this, and you set Toy Vendor directly from your deck. It's nice because you can't really Ash Fluffal Bear because it sets that. It has another effect where if it's on the field, you can tribute it and then target a polymerization in your graveyard and add it to your hand. I think I have literally never used it, but keep it in mind because there are probably scenarios where it can come up where you really need a poly, and you've already used them. So this is the thing. Another interaction is that this is a level 3, so in a pinch, if you've summoned this off of a vendor or something and you don't have Sabers access, or you already used your Sabers effect, you can use Meister to pop this because it is a level 3. So 3 Fluffal Bear. Alstron is playing 2 in his build. There is some interesting theory behind maybe playing 2 and then doing 2 Popper Up, but I really like 3 personally. Next up is the card that you do have to play 3 of. I am sorry that this is a bit pricier now. I was hoping that wouldn't happen for us North American players. 3 Fluffal Penguin. Card is ridiculous. It's a water, which means that it's a level 4 you can go into Bahamut Shark with. And as a not hard once per turn effect, during a main phase, you can special summon a Fluffal monster from your hand, except a named copy of itself. So you can't summon Penguin off Penguin. You regularly resolve this 2 or 3 times in a turn, sometimes 4, depending on how crazy you're starting to get. But being able to lead with the Penguin as a normal summon, special a Fluffal and go off from there, bring it back off of a cross sheet, special it from hand using a repair, or even special it using a Dugares to get stuff out of your hand. Just an amazing card. And then when it's used as fusion material as a hard once per turn, you can draw 2 cards and discard 1. So it's an excellent discard outlet for stuff in your hand you want to get rid of. Just all around lovely, lovely card. You do have to play 3 of these. Unfortunately, you can't get away with less. So next up, we've got 2 Fluffal Dolphin. There's some argument over whether you should run 1, 2, or 3 of this card. I like it at 2 in the Necrofusion build. If you were blinding second, I would definitely consider 1. Because it is recoverable with Octopus, which is a thing to consider, but seeing this in your opener is just very strong. Being able to add it off of a Foolish Burial Goods is very strong. This card is a +3. You get to set your vendor, then you banish your wings, you draw 2, and then discard 1 on top of like being able to Foolish either the wings or your sabers, like draw 2 and get a search. Like the card is a +3. The only reason you're playing less is because it does require the setup of having the toy vendor in your graveyard to activate its effect, but very good. The niche effect is that when it's used as fusion material, you can take a fusion or polymerization spell that is banished in your graveyard and shuffle it into the deck. That's important because it's good recovery for Fright for Fusion if you've already used it. If for some reason your polys has been banished, you can do that. And if you need to resolve a patchwork to get to an Egypt chain and you don't have any polys left in deck, except for the one in your hand, you can fuse with this and then put it back in so that your patchwork is live. So something to consider, and frequently you are making Bahamut Truck with these two. Usually that's how that works, but sometimes you'll do 2 of these, sometimes you do 2 of those. Next we have the 1-ofs Fluffal Wings. The reason that we can play 1 in this build is because we're playing Octopus to recover it. And as well, like Dolphin can send it, so I don't think there's much reason to play more than 1. You just don't really want to open it. There are not a lot of hands where opening it is great. So I like playing 1. You could experiment with 2 if you wanted, for sure. But the fact that if you control Toy Vendor, you banish this, banish a Fluffal, draw a card, send your Toy Vendor, draw another card, so you've drawn 2, and then you get to pick a card off of like Vendor. Like, I don't know what you thought like Sky Striker Mobilize Engage was, but this is, because Mobilize Engage was you draw 1 card and then you pick 1. This is you draw 2 cards and then you pick 1. So I mean, you do the math, but very strong. You could play 2 or 1, very good. Next up is Sheep. This card is so stupid. In a going second, it's not amazing. It can do some cool stuff just in terms of link climbing if you clear disruptions, but going first, this card is just broken. Like the fact that you can do something crazy, like you have a penguin special summon a dog at a sheep to bounce your penguin, to special summon an Egypt from your grave, link off, repair, special summon your penguin to special summon another Fluffal, or like if you haven't used your penguin effect yet that you summoned off across sheep, bounce the dog to special, link off the link 2 with the sheep for Dogda, penguin effect, special this, trigger Dogda effect. Just incredible interaction, incredible advantage. This is really nice too if you don't have a discard outlet for your Egypt chain in hand. You can just specially Egypt chain or link it off to trigger chain's effect. So Sheep gets you out of a lot of cool situations. You could experiment with more than 1. I don't think I would personally play more than 1. I know there are people that are experimenting with 2 or 3. The cool thing about Fluffal right now is that we are trying to figure stuff out. There haven't been as many people labbing this stuff, so the more minds we get on the concept, the better. Definitely come and let us know, and let me know if you found more than 1 to be really cool. So definitely check it out. It's a free special, like it turns dog into any link too, which is nice. Next is the weird inclusion Octopus. Sorry for getting this bot out. I didn't quite expect it to jump up as much as it did. Very, very, very strong in going first, and arguably should be played in going second as well. The fact that this is recovery for any of your pieces is very strong. As a 1-for-1 target, it's good if you decide to play 1-for-1. This is part of ways that you can counterplay. You can counterplay Disruption on your Artifact Scythe, which is very strong. It can recover Egypt Scythe from your graveyard so that you have another Disruption on your opponent's turn. Something important to note is that this does miss timing, so you do have to make sure that this is the last thing on the chain to happen, is the summon of the Fluffal Octopus. So if you're like doing your Necro into Tiger or something, you'll want to make sure that Cross Sheep is chain link 1 in that chain, just so that you can make sure that your Octopus will trigger in a new chain. But really, really stupid card. The fact you can add back penguins to fuse with them. You can 1-for-1 discard Egypt chain to get back your Octopus to add back your Egypt chain. Very silly. I don't know what, like very dumb. You just, the resource loop on this is really crazy. And this is also the reason you can play 1 wings, because when you fusion summon using Octopus as material, you can take any 2 banished monsters and put them back. So if they've banished your artifacts, I think you can put it back. But more importantly, you can put back your banished wings to use for next turn. So very strong overall card. Definitely do play 1. I wouldn't play more than 1, but I definitely do play 1. If you don't have access to this because it's gotten too expensive, you can still play the deck. It's still very good. It's just, this is really nice. It just adds like another layer of complexity and another layer of interaction to a lot of your boards, and another layer of board building. Like for example, one cool interaction is you can go Octopus, add back Sheep, special Sheep if you've already used a Sheep. The hand summon of Sheep is not once per turn. It's just if you control a Fluffal and you've gotten it in hand. So over the course of your turn, like if you have linked off a Sheep, you go Penguin effect, special Octopus, Octo add Sheep, special Sheep. Very strong interactions with these cards. So next up is we've got 3 Edge Imp Chain. Very excellent quality card. Like, all of these cards are really strong. I'm surprised it's taken this long for like more people than just Mr. Ease and the one French duelist who managed to top the extravaganza there with a Go Second build in Dark Fusion. But really strong card. This card can get you to Patchwork. This card also gets you to Meister. When it's sent from the field or the hand to the graveyard, you can add yourself a Edge Imp or a Frightfur card, any Frightfur card. So you can add Patchwork, you can add Repair, you can add Frightfur Fusion on turn 3 as follow-up, or if you need it as a combo piece, you get Meister. Very good. Its second effect doesn't really come up because its effect is you can only use 1 effect per turn once that turn, but if it declares an attack, you can add a copy of itself from your deck to your hand. If you brick, it's nice to just like attack and then like dig through your deck for stuff, just so that you've got more chance, and then on the next turn, if it gets run over, you can add a Patchwork. So just come up. Level 4, so you can actually tribute a Fluffal to summon it off of Meister if you don't have access to this, which is cool. But it gets you, it's poly access, it's Patchwork, it's very nice. You must play 3. Cannot play less than 3 of this. Next up is your 1 Sabers. When you play 1, you only need 1. This is what helps you summon your Tiger. This can let you do stack plays with Toy Vendor so that you can guarantee that you hit off of your vendor because you know what's on top of your deck. Summoning itself back is really nice, and this is normally what you're attributing with your Meister to special summon the Lilith, so that's pretty cool. You could experiment with playing 2 just to abuse Tiger a bit more, because Necrofusion does banish it face down, but I have found that you generally don't need more than 1 and you don't want to break on it, so. Do play 1 though. I do have a Lost Art, I just haven't cracked it open, so that is nice. 1 Edge Imp Scythe. I only main 1 because it's quite good. You could theoretically cut it, you could play more, but going blinding first, I find that you just want to have access to this to add as part of your board, either in graveyard or already in your hand, and it's nice to be able to use an extra Patchwork search if you already have access to Sabers and you already used your chain effect, just to have something else. Having the protection even is just nice for your Tiger or your Cruel Whale, and it's obviously like if you end up going second, it's nice to draw because being able to fuse into your Whale on your opponent's turn is very silly. Being able the fact that you can add this back with Octopus if you summon it back off of Cross Sheep and then set up another disruption on your opponent's turn is really strong, and most of your setups will aim to try to do that if you have the extra search power. So definitely I would recommend you include 1 in the main, but you could in theory cut it to 0 or increase the count if you want to see that version of the play more often. Next up is Frightfur Meister. For those of you who have not seen this, came out in Toon Chaos. You contribute, the Pendulum effect is the only one that matters in this deck, this version of the deck for that matter. You contribute 1 level 4 or lower Frightfur monster, or Frightfur, Fluffal, or Edge Imp monster, and special summon from your deck a Fiend monster with the same level but with a different name, and it's a hard once per turn. You're using this to tribute your Edge Imp Sabers or Fluffal Bear in a pinch to special summon the next card, Lilith, Lady of Lament, from the deck. And Lilith is what guarantees you access to your Necro Fusion. This interaction is really cool. There's a lot of really unexplored things that you can do with Frightfur Meister, so definitely keep an eye on what this card can do in the future. Funny targets include Doomdog Octhros, Infernity Archfiend, there are more, but those are Barrier Statue of the Abyss, but Infernoid Decatron, any of the Plunder Patrol cards, any of the Unchained level 3s. Very cool card. And you play 7 copies of it, because Patchwork gets you to Chain, which gets you to this, and Chain also just gets you to this. And the Lilith obviously is cool. The nice thing about Lilith is that if you draw it, it's totally fine. You can either set up a Vendor to draw a Fluffal, because Vendor can special any monster. You can special Lilith from hand, or if you hit it off a Vendor and discard it, you can bring it back with either Dugar's the Timeless or Cross Sheep. So like having this in hand is perfectly fine. You have tons of ways to get to it. And if you draw Necrofusion over the course of your combo, then you don't have to worry about bringing it back, which is nice. So keeping that there. The win condition, Artifact Scythe, is here. It's going to be everywhere soon, so definitely keep an eye on this. Summon it. Your opponent cannot summon from the extra deck. If it's destroyed while it's in the spell and trap card zone, you special summon it from the graveyard. The special summon effect is not once per turn, so there are some interesting things we can do with Artifact Dagda to abuse this. But your goal is to pop this via Necrofusion with Tiger, via Edge Imp Sabers with Whale, or via Edge Imp Scythe with Cruel Whale. Or if you decide to play it in the extra deck, you can just go for the good old-fashioned Tornado Dragon. Deck is very good at making rank 4s, so if you want just the simple way, that is also a way to do it. Very, very unfair card, and this deck particularly is very good at taking advantage of this. And when we get to like the test hands and the combos, you'll see just how strong this card really is. Next up, we've got 3 copies of Toy Vendor. Not hard once per turn at all. The graveyard effect is just not once per turn at all, and the on-field effect is a soft once per turn. If you control this card, you can discard a card from your hand, and then draw a card and reveal it. If it is a Fluffal, you can add it to your hand, and then special summon any monster from your hand. So it doesn't just have to be Fluffals, it can be Lilith or some other things. If you choose to play Gamma, you can summon dead Gammas off of it, which is really funny. The other thing is, if it's not, you just send it to the graveyard. Often that's fine, especially if it's something like a Sabers or a Repair or an Edgimp chain. That chain can then get you Patchwork, so there are lots of cards that are like, you're totally fine just drawing and getting rid of them. And then if it's sent to the graveyard at all, you can just add an Edgimp, Sabers, or a Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand. So you regularly resolve this 3 or 4 times a turn to get your searches, and often, like, especially if you're just, like, you keep hitting off of stuff, it's nice. You have other ways to recycle this. Dolphin is one of them, and Borg Blocker on the extra deck is another. Just unbelievably cracked card. And arguably stronger than opening Toy Vendor, probably just in general is stronger. 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods that we are playing to find it. This is specifically even more ridiculous than Toy Vendor because it sets it up in the graveyard for Dolphin, and it can just add Dolphin itself. So this one card sets up your Wings draws if you have any way to get any other Fluffal in the graveyard. And it gets you any Fluffal you want. It is hard once per turn, but you must max out on this. It is like 100% the best card you can possibly open. I would say this is arguably the best card in the deck. Definitely 3 Vendor, 3 goods. Please, like, don't play any lists of these. If you're going to cut on anything, cut the bear to 2. So we've got those. Next up, we've got 3 of the other crazy good card in this deck. Fright for Patchwork. You play 6 copies of this because it is searchable off of your Edgimp chain. If you see your Edgimp chain in the hard open, activate it, hard once per turn. You add a Polymerization, and you add an Edgimp. Really crazy because you can activate this to get your Edgimp chain and a Poly, fuse away, and then have the Edgimp chain search your Meister. Just incredibly strong. If you have an extra search with this, because you already saw either Meister, Necrofusion, or Edgimp chain, you can actually add your Edgimp. You can add your Edgimp Sabers, so you don't have to use vendor searches on it, or your Dolphin Dump. Or you can get your Edgimp Scythe, and then that's the most common way that you're setting up Scythe as a backup play. It is hard once per turn, so often you'll use one, and then if you've already accessed your Repair, you can use Cruel Whale to send another one, so that you still have one in deck that you could search, but you're not drawing it and having a dead draw off of your Penguin Fusion draws. So that is something to consider. So definitely play 3. It's amazing to open. It's wonderful ash bait sometimes, and if this card resolves, you have a very, very high chance to win the game. 2, Polymerization. This is the funny thing in MBT's video. I still don't own a 3rd. I don't think I would play 3. This is probably like one of the most contentious arguments in the Fluffal community, is if you should be playing 2 or 3 of this. I personally like 2. It's recoverable with Dolphin. You have Fright for Fusion as follow-up for turn 3, and most of the time in the Necrofusion build, unless you have a very weird hand, you're only fusion summoning once. You're either summoning your Tiger to pop a Vendor so you can go off, or you're fusion summoning your Whale. And it's very rare that you will fusion summon twice, except for very niche scenarios. So in general, I quite like 2. And if you need to be able to resolve a Patchwork, you can always use a Dolphin as a fusion material to put one back in the deck. So I like 2. You could play 3, but I only own 2, so we're going to play 2. And MBT definitely killed me for that one. So next up is Fright for Repair. I don't know why. Like, this card is so good. I don't play more than 1. But it's crazy. The fact that a Whale can just send this in the graveyard is the more frequent effect that will come up. Your Cruel Whale can, as a quick effect on your turn, send this card to the graveyard. You can banish it to special summon a Fluffal or an Edgimp from your hand. Really crazy. Summon a Penguin from this, vomit another Fluffal from hand, just go off like crazy. It's very, very cracked card. Opening it is fine because you can discard it, or if its activated effect is you can activate it, return a Fright for Fusion monster from your graveyard back to your extra deck, and then summon any Fluffal. So it is Monster Reborn. If you've mostly this comes up if you've gone through Tiger first, but definitely worth thinking about using this. It's also searchable off of chain if you really need that Monster Reborn to keep your plays going. You can only use 1 effect per turn, only once that turn, so you do have to keep that in mind, is that you can only use 1 of its effects. So decide which is best for you, and definitely work from there, but the card is really, really silly. Fright for Fusion, it's Miracle Fusion. You can summon a Fright for Fusion monster by banishing the fusion materials from your grave. Just slap her down, banish them. It's nice for going second, because you can just blow your opponent out with a Tiger. or you can make a Kraken and start looping stuff from there, or a Sabertooth to revive a Kraken if you've hard made one. Just very, very strong. Often is your turn 3 follow-up, but you can use this as a combo piece if in an emergency. So definitely keep an eye out for situations where you might have to do that. 1 for 1. This, you could arguably cut this. I think this is probably the most cuttable card in the main deck, especially at 40. It is really strong. It's Wings access in an emergency. And it's also Octopus access for hands where you want to have Octopus. And it's not a bad draw, like late draw off of your Penguin stuff, just for Octopus to add back resources. But it sometimes does get you there, and you have to discard a monster. So your only major value is either dead cards or pitching chain off of this. And pitching chain off of this is nice because you can like chain link 1 Octopus to add back the chain link 2 chain to search, which is really strong. So this is a very, very, very good card, but you could consider cutting it. I'm just having it in this list specifically because I played it at the Extravaganza in MBT's profile. Next up, Called by the Grave. It is a good card. Stops the hand traps, so you play this, especially if people start to wisen up and play Droll. This is nice, and drawing this late combo, great. It's good. Having this in your opening hand, excellent. Like set it as an additional disruption. It's a good card. Finally, 3 copies of Necro Fusion. This is like definitely the funniest part of the deck, but it's really strong once you realize what exactly this does for the deck. It's a normal trap, and then we get access to this through Lilith, but sometimes you just draw it, and that's also nice because then you don't have to use extra searches on Meister Lilith plays. So your Necro Fusion says, Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn. So, on your opponent's turn, you activate this to summon a Frightful Tiger, blow up their whole board on your artifact scythe, and scythe lock them. Very, very strong, just very unfair card. Drawing it is fine, again, because you're not using your searches on it. This is part of a 3-card combo that helps insulate you from Droll. Just very, very good. So yeah, we'll do that. That is the main deck. We'll go through the extra. So for the extra deck, we are playing 2 copies of Fright for a Cruel Whale. Helps with OTKs. It's a hand trap with Edge Imp Scythe going second. It sends an extender from deck to grave, and it can make itself 3900 attack. Very strong. If it's fusion summoned, you can destroy 1 card on either side of the field, non-targeting. So you can pop your own vendors if your opponent controls a card. You can pop the artifact scythe. You can pop a Dagda. You can, if you've used Edge Imp Scythe to make it, you can have it destroy itself and then banish the Edge Imp Scythe to prevent it from being destroyed. This not targeting has a lot of really interesting implications for stuff like the Tri-Brigade matchup, where it forces them to fire their Revolt early or risk losing their Shreg and not getting the effect. And it has a bunch of applications against other matchups. You can chain block this effect with the Penguin or the Edge Imp chain. So you can like make sure that this resolves if you need to clear, or you can make sure that your penguin draws resolve if you really need that. Then as a quick effect, you can target any fusion you control to give it attack equal to half its original attack by sending a Frightful card from your extra deck or deck to grave. It's nice because you can set up fusion material for your Frightful fusion to go into a Sabertooth and revive this, or you can send your Frightful Repair and then banish that to summon a Fluffal on your own turn. Very ridiculous card. Rise of the Duelist common. I love that a common card packs so much punch. It's so nice. 2 Frightful Tiger, 1 Secret, 1 Ultra, because I'm just like that. They're both very nice. This card destroys cards on the field targets cards on the field up to the number of materials used for its fusion summon. So Necro Fusion, you can pop as many cards as you want. You could summon it a little early, just take two of theirs and your own artifact scythe. You can target any card. You can pop your own vendors if you want to get that advantage for next turn. You play 2 because you want 1 to summon off of your Necro Fusion, and you want 1 to use as a combo piece in case you need to hard make it and pop a vendor in order to keep your combo plays going. Just very correct card. It does miss timing, so you do have to be careful to have Necro Fusion be the last thing that happens in the chain. So you'd want it to be chain link 1, so you would likely do this on resolution of a summon or an effect. The other thing with, if you're forced to use Necro Fusion early, you can summon Whale because Whale does not miss timing. And then you can just save Tiger as a blowout for the next turn with Fright for Fusion. So even if you have to use your Necro Fusion early, definitely not a death sentence. It's very nice to have like just the gigantic field nuke. Against combo decks, you Scythe lock them and out their stuff. Against back row decks, you wait until the end phase, you Tiger, and you just blow out their whole back row. Really, really good. Next up, we've got 1 Frightful Kraken. This card attacks twice. It is 2200. You can make it big with Dugares or with Cruel Whale. And does a not hard once per turn effect. If you can target a monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. It can't attack directly if it does that. However, if you summon it back with something like, I don't know, Frightful Sabretooth, then you can just use it again. There's a sick replay Mr. Ease has, I might link in the description, where he loops Kraken 3 times and then OTKs. It's pretty crazy. But these cards are great in combination. I would only play 1 of the Kraken, because you never make it going first. It doesn't come up what you do. We're not making rank 8s in this deck. Sabretooth, simply to revive the Kraken, or to revive a Tiger, or to revive a Cruel Whale, if we want to push for game, or loop Kraken send twice. Sabretooth and Kraken itself is lethal on board, because Kraken boosts Sabretooth boosts both itself and the Kraken by 400, so these 2 is game. Quite often, Kraken Whale itself is actually game, if you boost either the Kraken or the Whale, and just very absurd. And if you have like Kraken and Tiger and literally any other card on the board, like any other Frightfur or Fluffal monster on board, that's also game. So definitely stuff to consider. Going with the rest of this here. 1 Bahamut Shark and 1 Toad. This is part of the end board. Toad is particularly dumb because you can add back Penguin or Dolphin with this. If you want to leave up pressure for your opponent, you can return it and just leave Bahamut Shark up so that they have to try to answer Shark. Otherwise, your Toad turn 3 is just going to blow them out. Being able to set cards that your opponent uses is really nuts and adds back your resources. If they try to hand trap you to clear the Toad, Toad just adds you an extender because you can get your Penguin that you can special back from the hand with a repair. Really dumb. So definitely play these. You could, if you wanted to, go all in on like double Toad boards, but having the ED utility is really nice. Space is already tight enough as it is. Dweller. This is probably one of your flex spots, but going forward it might not be a flex spot. Turns off your opponent's graveyard effects. Something of note is that because we can often make it with water materials, it can be 2200 attack, so it's actually a bit trickier to get over. And as well, it boosts all water monsters by 500 attack. Toad is a water, so you got a 2700 Toad. And your Kraken and your Cruel Whale are also both waters. So these 2 can also be boosted. You can have a 4400 Whale or a 2700 Kraken that can attack twice. That's pretty good. So I quite like Dweller, and it's very strong. It'll be very strong in the upcoming format against Drytron, Dinosaur, D-Link. Dweller is good against, and Shadalls. It's good against everything. It's good against this deck. So anyway, next up we've got Dugares the Timeless. This is one of the flex spots, but this card is insane. Being able to either draw 2 and then discard 1, being able to trigger Vendors or Edge Imp Chains, or get a Repair Engrave if you want. Digging for Necro Fusion if you really want to see it, or that Edge Imp Scythe if you want to be able to have a play to pop your own Artifact Scythe, being able to special summon back a Penguin to summon back stuff, or summon back an Octopus to add back resources, or being able to revive basically anything you want. Really strong. An instance where you side in Lancia, being able to revive a Lancia and then have that as a loop if your hand is like really, really bad. Very strong. And then also just to double the attack. If you take Dugares and you double the attack of a Kraken, that's game. You take Dugares and you double the attack of a Whale. Attack with this for 78 and then Timeless, that's game. So it really helps with OTKs. I wouldn't cut this, but it is technically a flex spot if you find that you generally have an easier time making lethal elsewhere. I just think it's nice because in an open board state, you can just do this, done. One sec. Little cut there. So onto the links. We've got a Cross Sheep. Really silly. If a monster special summon to a zone this card points to, then you can use the following effect. We're only ever using the fusion effect, but keep in mind the other ones for attack boosts and the like with Xyz plays going second and stuff. But Cross Sheep, so say you fusion summon a monster, you can summon any level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. Really strong utility, just an incredible combo piece. It's actually part of your end board setup, which we can get to as we start doing the test hands here. And important to note is that it only cares what is pointing to it. So if you special summon a monster to its zone while you control a fusion monster here, you can still use its effect to summon a card from grave. So this is important if you fusion summoned before you've made Cross Sheep, or maybe you've revived a fusion and then you've with Dugares or something, and then you summon something else to that point. So or you revive it with Dugaris, and then it's a fusion monster, and you can just trigger Crush Heap from there. So definitely keep in mind that it can be when like you can fusion summon a monster and it can trigger, or you can already have one up and then summon one to the other zone it points to. So that is pretty cool. Part of theory-wise, always summon your fusion to the middle zone, specifically because then you can use like either of these zones, and then still make sure that your Crush Heap is live. So always, 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 if you have the option to, summon this to the middle zone and don't clog up your middle zone. Just something to keep in mind. And at your end board, you want to keep a Crush Heap link zone open. So keep that in mind. So next up, we have Artifact Dagda. This card has some really cool application in this deck. This is the main way that you're setting your Scythe. So it's a link to any two monsters with different names once per turn. When a card, when an effect of another card on the field is activated as a quick effect, you can just set your Artifact Scythe right from your deck. Really strong. You destroy it during your opponent's next end phase. Doesn't matter. We're usually destroying it much earlier than that. The other relevant effect is that when this card this link summoned card is destroyed on your opponent's turn, you can special summon an artifact monster from your graveyard in defense position. So there are some interesting counterplay you can do here, where if your Scythe is disrupted, or you draw and then discard your Scythe off of a vendor, you can end on Dagda and then pop your Dagda instead with your Whale or Tiger, and then special summon the Scythe. So Dagda helps you deal with like the really bad vendor hit of the Scythe, and it also helps you deal with it also helps in some other interesting scenarios. There's a really nasty trick you can do with this, where on your turn you can set the Artifact Scythe, and on your opponent's turn, when you activate the Necrofusion, you can chain Dagda to set a Lancia, and then you destroy them. They special summon themselves, so you can Scythe Lock and Lancia your opponent, because you can destroy both of these with Tiger. Really, really gross. Like against Dinosaur, if you do this, they lose. They activate Mystic Mine and you just toad them. It's like there are other matchups where this comes up. Like against Dragon Link, this just means they literally can't do anything. A Scythe Lock is often enough, but like if you sided in Lancia and you have this, just blow them out. Anyway, so very cool interactions with Dagda. Next up is Appaloosa. This is part of your end board. This is really nice. It's going to be quite good for the upcoming format in general, because the outs to it are like hefty spell cards. This is just like, you don't prioritize making the Appaloosa. You'll prioritize making sure that you get your Dagda to set your Scythe, but like most of the time you have the extenders to go into Appaloosa. And just being able to like use your extra like free bodies to make this is really nice and have the disruption. And the fact that you can protect it with Necro means that often you'll get the full use out of it. It's very strong. Definitely you do. In theory, you don't have to play this, but you really should. Just because like just having it on top of your setup is so strong. So these are two flex spots. I would say in theory, your flex spots in the extra deck. I think the 6 fusions are pretty standard. I think you have to play all of them. Your flex spots in the deck, in theory, are Dugaris, Abyss Dweller, and then these 2 slots. So you have about 4 free slots to work with in the Necrofusion version. So we have Barricadeborg Blocker. I really like this going first. There are a lot of like very interesting hands that this enables. Being able to be a discard outlet for something like a chain, if you don't have another way to discard it to get to your fusion plays by adding Patchwork, is really good. Being able to pitch it to get vendor is nice. And the fact that if you have extra resources, you can link into this, discard something to get back a toy vendor in your end phase, and it just makes the resource loop really very strong. Very good piece. It helps make weird hands playable. It helps make awkward hands quite good. And it makes your like really good hands just crazy because you get more resources back. You can cut this, but I really like it. Last slot here is Nightmare Phoenix. Arguably, this, if you own one, this should be access code. Access code is really good in this deck. If you don't own one, don't sweat it. You don't like need it. You don't have to play it. It's just nice because a 4300 access code and a 3900 whale is lethal. And something interesting to note about an access code in this slot is that all of your other utility links here are different attributes. You've got Earth, Light, Wind, and Dark here. And like if you found room for the Phoenix, you would have Fire. So your access code will get a lot of pops. So this would be access code if I owned one, but I don't, because I'm not like a budget player, but I don't really want to spend the money on it right now. So or like the trade fodder or whatever. So if you are picking this deck up because it is cheap, absolutely you don't need it. I would say you could either play Phoenix or Tornado Dragon in this slot is excellent. Tornado Dragon can also pop your own vendor in a pinch, and it's also an alternate way to pop the Artifact Scythe. So definitely worth considering. But yeah, that is it for the actual profile. So I'm going to give this a lot of shuffles, and then we're going to do a bunch of test hands, because that's what I think a lot of the other people were here for. So we'll get into that in just a moment. All right, so we've unpaused here. I've given this a big old riffle shuffle, or a big old pile shuffle. So put this in the ED zone instead of the field zone here. I'll do some riffles here, and then we'll do a half cut and do some other shenaniganry. So riffle this up, and we're gonna see how these test hands here go, and then hopefully this will give people like a better idea. The big problem with teaching people how to play this is that it is very nonlinear. You're making decisions based on a lot of random stuff that happens with your draws and your vendor hits or your vendor misses or anything else. So the best thing I think I can offer is to just run through a bunch of hands on camera, explain some of the decision making I might be making, maybe do some hands in like a more simple line and do some hands in a more complicated line that might insulate yourself a little bit better. But I hope this helps. So we're going to cut in half here. I'll just take the standard old 5 off the top for remotes, and let's see what we're working with here. Fried for Patchwork, excellent, very good open. Dog, already this hand is playable. Like already you've got a reasonable hand here. Another Patchwork kind of sucks. Likely we'll use it as discard fodder later. Hard drawn Necro is interesting here. It means we can reuse our Patchwork search potentially on some interesting other stuff. And a bear. This is quite good actually. This is quite playable. So here, I think just to see where we're going with this, we're going to Patchwork here first. So we'll lead with the Patchwork. We're going to add Poly. Because I can envision a situation where we might pop our own vendor, I think rather than get the Scythe or the Chain, we are actually going to get the Sabers here. Because I can envision a scenario where we might want to do some additional searches. So we are going to get the Sabers. If I can find it in my deck here. There it is. We're going to get our Edge Sabers here. Then, for deck thinning reasons, although drawing off of the stuff is very nice, we're going to Fluffal Bear here to get a toy vendor. And we're going to take that toy vendor and we'll set it here. And the reason that I'm doing it this way is because if we get interrupted on some stuff with the Sabers, there are ways to be able to have it get to the graveyard, and then we can still have our Necrofusion be live here. So here, just because we can, I'm going to try to hit off of the vendor, because it's possible that we're going to dump it later. So I'm going to pitch the Patchwork. Let's see if we hit anything. We've hit wings. That's actually really cool. So here we'll add this, and we'll probably special the dog and get the penguin. And what is really nice about that is that wings as a discard outlet is cool. We can discard it off of the penguin if our thing resolves. So we're going to special dog here. And if our dog effect is negated, we can just normal summon the wings, link off, and then get our draws. So dog here, I think, is going to get ourselves a penguin, which is really nice. Here, because we have the wings in hand and dolphin is less necessary in this hand, I think we're going to just well, we could link off into that actually might be the play here, is to normal and then link off into a cross sheep. So we're going to normal our wings, and then we're going to link the dog and the wings into a cross sheep. Arguably you can normal the penguin special, but we're likely fusing the penguin away anyways, so we'll make cross sheep here. Here, I think we could, before hard polying, we could do our wings draws just to see what we get. And then we can make decisions based on that, so I think we will do that. So we're going to go wings and bear. And then this way, if they hand trap this, then we can still fusion and go off that way. So I should remember to keep these face up. So we'll draw one here. Penguin. Excellent. Another penguin. Always good to see. We'll take more penguins. So we'll send a vendor. And Edge Chain. Very nice. We can use this to get... Since we've already drawn Meister, we don't need to use this to get Necro, but we can use this to get our Fight for Fusion for next turn. So then we'll trigger our vendor effect. I'm thinking dolphin here, just so that we can access toad. So I think we will get a dolphin. So here, I'm actually going to fuse with the sabers, just to insulate us a little bit from Nibiru. So we're going to go polymerization, and we will fuse the penguin and the sabers, and we will summon a cruel whale. So here, we're going to go chain link 1 penguin, chain link 2 cross sheep, and then on resolution, once the game state is open again, we'll go chain link 3 whale the target itself to send repair to the graveyard. So we'll send our fright for repair, and we'll shuffle them up before we do the draws. Well, we'll revive first, I guess. Here, we will definitely be specialing the penguin. And we will draw 1 for 1. This is very good. This can access our resource loop and Foolish Burial Goods. We have not yet used a Foolish Burial Goods, so I really like all of these cards. I actually think I'm going to pitch the chain, just so that we can have something else to discard. This is really strong. Dang. I don't know what to discard. In theory, like, we could discard the Foolish Burial Goods because we don't, like, really need it, but it seems really strong. I'm going to discard the Edgem Chain, just so we have something else to discard off of whatever we want. So we'll Edgem Chain here. Meister actually might be a good add here, because we can always access Chain again later, and then Meister is just a free discard because we've already drawn Necrofusion, so I'm actually going to get the Meister here, because I want something good to discard off the 1 for 1. Okay. So now, just to bait out a Nibiru if there is one, we're going to activate Penguin Effect to special summon our Dolphin. And then because we can, we're going to Dolphin Effect. We're going to set our toy vendor. Now, because we have the 1 for 1 for Octopus, we're not going to be sending Octo here. Sheep may actually be the send. Because we've already used our Fluffal Dog effect, I am actually going to send Fluffal Sheep, because we can add the sheep back off of our Octopus, and because we have another penguin in hand as well. So I'm actually going to Foolish the Sheep here. So we'll shuffle and cut that up. Then we're going to overlay these two into our Bahamut Shark. We will Bahamut Shark detach Dolphin to special summon our Totally Awesome. So we've already used Cross Sheep here. We have the Repair and Graveyard to work with. We have the 1 for 1 here to work with. I think we could even 1 for 1 to add back 1 for 1 into the Octopus and then add back something else here. So let's clear the board as much as we can here. So we'll link these off here to summon the Duck. Then I think we'll activate, because we can always FB goods for whatever we're missing, right? We'll 1 for 1 discard the Meister to summon the Octopus here. And then we're going to go Octopus Effect targeting Sheep. So we'll add the Sheep back to our hand. I always forget to. I always put them the wrong side up. So then we can special the Sheep and add the Octopus. And so we'll special the Sheep. Activate Sheep Effect to bounce the Octopus, and we'll chain Dogda. We could have chained an Octopus Effect. That might have been better. Yeah, you have a little bit of freedom to mess around with this. So we'll set our Artifact Scythe here. And then Sheep will bring back our chain. Here we have some interesting discard outlets. So we could even just stop here, to be frank, and we could just link these off into Appaloosa, set the Necrofusion, and just hang out. We could thin the deck a little bit more. We still have Repair. So, but here, just to conserve resources and to set up the loop, I am actually going to do this in a slightly different way. And actually, this hand can set up a Dweller on top of the regular board. So we are going to, we're going to FB goods here and get a spare level 4 that we won't be needing. So we'll vendor and we'll vendor. We have a bunch of dogs left in deck, so we'll get another doggo. And here to set up the resource loop, can we add Dweller to this? Or, yeah, no, this works. So instead of going through Barricadeborg Blocker here, because we already have a vendor set and we can get access to the dolphin in our deck whenever we want, we're just going to link these off into, and we don't have access to the agent chain, so we'll link these off into a 3-material Appaloosa. Then we will go banish the repair and graveyard to special summon the penguin. Penguin effect to special summon the dog, and we can overlay it for Dweller. And then we will set the Necrofusion. So what we have here is we have an octopus in hand for recovery for next turn, which is really cool. So that is quite something. Ideally, you get this in the grave to special it off of the sheep and add back to hand. But in this case, we're literally not going to have space on the board because we were able to add a Dweller. So having this in hand is fine if we want to add back an Edgem Chain to discard it and get a Fright for Fusion later. So what we have here is on our opponent's turn. So we have a Dweller that we can fire, a 3-mana Appaloosa and a Toad. Necrofusion. Let's say we banish 3. So let's say we banish the sheep face down. We banish we already have a dolphin. We don't really need a dog. So we'll banish the dog and the sabers. We'll banish those face down, and we'll summon the tiger. So here, you tiger, you pop. Well, this will go to grave. You can pop your vendor if you want to, if you want extra searches. So that's the thing you can do, is banish another one to pop this vendor here. But you pop the scythe, and 2 of their cards, and you cross sheep here. Actually, in this case, because we've set up the Dweller, you don't want to cross sheep effect. Because we already have too many spaces on the board here. If you've used Toad's effect already, then you can summon back a penguin or something, or an Edgem scythe, or an Edgem chain to link off, and get advantage there. But here, because let's assume we haven't had to use the Toad, you're not going to summon off of cross sheep. So then you summon your artifact scythe. You've locked them out of the extra deck. You have a live toy vendor for next turn. You have a Toad that when you use, you can add back a penguin to your hand. So that's a bunch of advantage already. The Dweller is 2200 and is boosting the Toad to 27. Because it has the penguin under it. Ideally, you're detaching the dog. And then you draw for turn. It's an Edgem chain. You can discard this with Fender, add your Fright for Fusion, and just go off like crazy. So that was an amazing hand. That showed off a lot. So I'll clean this all up and we'll do another one. I'll do this in sequence just to show that this isn't like a fluke. A lot of your hands do this, and even like the bad hands can do some pretty scary things. So we'll clean all this up here, get back our banished cards. The cool thing about Octopus too, like being able to recycle the wings if you decide to use it as fusion material at any point in the combo is nice. There's also the Octo, I showed off there, the Octopus add back sheep setup is very strong, so yeah. We'll give this a good shuffle and then we'll do another one. And again, in that hand, there were definitely different things I could have done. I could have held stuff and made a Barricadeborg Blocker instead of investing in the Dweller to not only keep space on the board, but to add a vendor back to hand and to set up the Octopus in the graveyard for more recovery. But I didn't do that. I went for the Dweller instead because I didn't have the Edgem Scythe as a backup way. So there, it's better to make the Dweller and force them to answer the Dweller with something like a Forbidden Droplet, and then you can save your Necrofusion for after the Droplet to pop the Scythe and summon that, and then have that work out, right? So I do think that was the better way to do that, but there were definitely like a bunch of different points during that hand where you could make different decisions. So hopefully that demonstrates kind of the insanity of this. All right. So we'll do the half cut here. We'll get 5 off the top, 3, 4, 5. Let's see if we brick or if we get something cool. Poly, interesting. Poly in the opener is something interesting to insulate you from hand traps, but it can depend on your hand, so we'll see how this goes. Second poly, this is quite bad. Unless we have a way to fuse with the dolphin, opening both of your polys sucks because of because you can't resolve, you can no longer resolve your patchwork. Penguin, quite good. We'll see what else we get here. FB goods, excellent. Perfection. This solves all of our problems. And the artifact scythe. That's okay. That's not too bad. So this hand is quite weak to interruption, but can still do a lot of the combos. So I have to actually think about the way that I would want to do this. There are some interesting implications. Okay. So we'll Foolish Burial Goods here first, obviously. Sending ourselves a toy vendor. Here, I do think just like going for wings draws is probably the play. There's a universe where you like add sabers here and just like try to dig, but I think I do think here we just go for the dolphin draws, because at the very least we pass on Toad, and if we see like any way into an edge imp scythe at all, we're in a really good position. Or to any edge imp monster at all, we're in a really good position. So we'll bin the vendor, and we'll get our dolphin here. So we'll normal penguin, penguin effect, special dolphin. Then we'll dolphin effect, reset the vendor. And we're going to send the Fluffal wings. So dig through the deck here. This is one of very few lists I play that has managed to stick to 40 cards, but here we are. Usually I'm pushing the limit a little bit on that, but 40 feels so nice for the Go First version. You can, in theory, push to 42. So you could play a range of like 40 to 42 and be totally fine. When you get to 43, you start to get a bit more inconsistent for a Go First. Go Second has a bit more leeway. So here, just so that we've got a Fluffal grave, we will go into the Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark detach dolphin to summon our Totally Awesome. Now here, you have an interesting choice to make here. I think it is actually worth heading off the vendor just to dig through your deck a little bit. Odds are, you could either pitch a poly here, because odds are you're probably not going to be resolving a patchwork with a hand like this, unless we see a dolphin or we search a dolphin off of this vendor for some reason. So you could do this, or you could pitch the Scythe and end on Dagda, and then pop the Dagda to summon back the Scythe. Here, just for the sake of experimentation, I am going to pitch the poly, just to see if we can just set the Scythe from hand. So I'm going to pitch the poly, we'll see if we hit off a vendor. Chain. Okay, that's not bad. So we'll discard the chain, we'll go chain effect. This is not bad because we can actually get the Meister here. Because we can't resolve patchwork, we're just going to go ahead and get Meister. So that is not terrible. We'll get this up. So then we will cut here, and we're going to wings, so we will get the wings and dolphin. And we're going to draw 1 for 1. This is very cool here. Okay, this probably means we use the Scythe. This is very cool here. I'll show you why. So we're going to toy vendor, we're going to bin Necro. Excellent. Even better. This is really sick. Okay, so we're going to toy vendor here. This will show off the power of, a 1 for 1 is cool. This will show off the power of Octopus. So we're going to get Penguin. So here, because we have hard drawn the Meister, we're going to go 1 for 1, discarding the Meister, because we no longer need this, because we hard drew Necro. So discarding the Meister, and we're going to special summon Octopus. Octopus here. So I have to cut because we're going to be doing some penguin draws. So Octopus is then going to target Edge Imp Chain, and it's going to add it back to our hand. So this is very cool because we now have an Edge Imp and we've got a fusion play. Very, very crazy. And we can also link off these two to set up our cross sheep. So now we're going to poly. We're going to Edge Imp Chain with Penguin to summon our Cruel Whale. We're going to Penguin, cross sheep, and then whale. So we're going to whale bin our repair. So cut here. I'll do our penguin draws. Vendor, that's so insane. And penguin, jeez. Okay, so we'll pitch the vendor for sure. And then cross sheep will bring back the penguin. This is really absurd. So we're going to go vendor to get dog. And what is nice about this is that we do still need to find a way to get access to our sabers in order to be able to have Tygraph for the Necro fusion. There are some alternate pathways to do this, but dog can just add the sabers. And then rather than going for sheep, I think going for the simple setup here makes the most sense. So it's a little too much time shuffling there, but that's okay. Okay, so here we're going to Penguin effect special the dog. We're going to activate dog effect to get our sabers. I do think sabers is the play here because we don't have access to that yet. No. Okay, so we are going to get sabers here. Just so that tiger is a much stronger blowout. If you had sabers, you would absolutely get sheep here. But since we don't, we are going to get sabers. In theory, you could get bear and then special the bear and then have Meister do it, but we discarded our Meister, so it's a little different there. So here, in order to abuse the sabers, I think what we're going to do is actually do a Barricadeborg Blocker play, and that can still get us to Appaloosa and get sabers and grave. So we're going to link off the dog and the cruel whale. We're going to make Borg Blocker. We're going to go Borg Blocker to dump the sabers, because we don't have to go through Dagda here at all. So then we're going to sabers to stack the penguin to special summon the sabers, and then we'll link into our Appaloosa. And then here we will set the Necrofusion and the Artifact Scythe. So this, and then in the end phase, you're going to get to use the Barricadeborg Blocker to add back a toy vendor to hand. So this is, again, really, really crazy. You've still gone +1, despite the fact that we had to neg a little bit to like get our advantage loop going. But here's what happens on your opponent's turn, right? So you flip the Necrofusion. Let's again say you banish like 3 of their cards. So we'll get rid of a spare penguin and probably just the doggo. Yeah, we'll get rid of the dog. We've got more in the deck we can use. So we'll banish those face down and you'll summon your tiger. Then, so you'll tiger, and then you'll chainlink one across sheep, chainlink 2 tiger. Tiger will blow up your scythe, and your opponent's cards, as many as you want, and you'll special summon back the octopus. Then your octopus will activate, and you can choose to add back either your penguin to have that in hand just to work with, or, because in this case we actually have the vendor, or add back the edge imp chain. Also because your toad can add back your penguin if you use Toad's effect. So, on your opponent's turn, and then the scythe will summon itself. So, on your opponent's turn, you have gone from 6 cards to 8 cards, and potentially, and this will also be advantage neutral and get you back an 8, and your edge imp chain can get you to more stuff. We did not resolve Patchwork. We did not activate the effect of Patchwork. We have popped their whole board. We have scythe locked them. We have 3 monster negates with Appaloosa, Omni negate with Toad, and we can set that to our field. And then we draw for turn the penguin that we had stacked with the sabers. So we're already in incredible shape. So let's go ahead and do another hand here. And I do hope that by doing this, it is giving people insight into like the decision making. And again, there's a lot of different branching paths here that you could do. Like at the very beginning, there's a possibility we don't go for the dolphin play and we hard fuse with penguin to like insulate ourselves a little bit. But or even hard fuse with the dolphin just to get a poly in rotation so that we can patchwork to search the sabers there. But so there are definitely some variants in how you might play out some of these hands. And I haven't gotten to show off the Meister into Lilith play. The reason that you play that is just so that you can guarantee access to Necro. You could totally play this and cut the Necrofusion. I just think that Necrofusion it's just an unbelievable blowout, and it helps against back row and combo, which is nice. Being able to do like the Lancia tricks and stuff, and being able to just clear the board with the Tiger. And also it's just cool. Necrofusion is just a sick card. Alright, so we'll cut in half here. We'll do 5 off the top. That's 5 there, yep. And let's do this one. So let's see what we've got here. 1 for 1. Interesting. This is better to draw into later for sure, but there are instances where this is quite strong. Toy vendor, excellent. Always love to see that. Penguin, excellent. We love to see it. Dog, great. This hand is really good. And engine chain. Oh, the sky is the limit for this. Okay. Let me just hold this, or we could do the advantage play. Actually, I kind of want to do that. We're gonna do. Octo's so strong later, but like it's so hard to pass that up, especially because we can like ash bait. We can bait with Patchwork too. Yeah, let's do it. Screw it. So again here, like just to iterate, you have so many decisions you can do with this. You can activate the vendor to pitch the edge imp chain and save the 1 for 1 for later. You can get the value off of 1 for 1 for getting your octopus here, and do that. Here you can go like penguin special to add bear to pitch the or to add bear to pitch to get vendor, vendor pitch this to get your dolphin, fuse with the penguin into your whale to send, especially the dolphin to set to get your wings draws. There are so many different ways that you can play this hand out and do well. So definitely, like, maybe even like if you're practicing this at home, like literally just pick up this hand and just try all the different pathways that you could do. Shuffle your deck a couple of times, see what different stuff you get, and make those decisions. That's the best way to learn this by far. So we're gonna go 1 for 1, pitch the chain, and we're gonna summon the octopus. Then we're gonna go chain link 1 octopus, chain link 2 edge of chain. That's so unfair. So we're gonna get patchwork. And then we're gonna say, yeah, and then we're going to octopus add this edge and chain right back into our hand. I don't understand why this is legal. I don't know why you're allowed to do this. So here, you can get a bit greedy here. We're gonna get a bit greedy. We're gonna patchwork. We are gonna go maximum greed on this hand. Because I'm feeling it. So we're gonna go poly, and because we're going maximum greed on this, I am going to set up. I'm gonna set up because we have octopus in rotation. I'm gonna get scythe, and then we're gonna try to get access to sabers later. So we are absolutely being greedy here, and I do not care. Sometimes you can afford to be, especially if your hand is like as just ludicrous as this. I sometimes just feel like being greedy. So now we're going to normal the penguin. Penguin effect to special the dog. And we're going to go dog effect. And we still have 3 under. Dog effect here is going to get, I think, our copy of dolphin. We could get bear and get the extra value off of maybe trying to get a hit here. A bit into Nibiru, because if I get dolphin, I keep the vendor to discard off of like a Borg play. But I think we can do better than that, because I want to keep the penguin to fuse with actually. So we do get dolphin here. Yep. And that is definitely the move. So I need to keep remembering to keep this face up. Sorry guys. Here, so we'll take the dog and the octopus, and we're going to link it across sheep. Then we're going to poly. I'll keep the scythe in hand, I think, just in case we fill up this board. I'll keep this in hand, and we'll use the chain because I've already used chain effect. So we're going to go chain penguin into whale. Then, so yeah, and here it's like a backup thing because with the chain, like we got patchwork instead of Meister. Meister may have been like I wanted poly access, and that's the thing is that if you already have poly access, chain can get your Meister. If not, then you just dig for an auxiliary piece. So here we're going to cross sheep and penguin, and then we're going to whale to send our repair. And we'll split this up, and we'll see what we hit off our penguin draws. And the cool thing too here is off of this penguin, we can just discard vendor, and then add whichever Fluffal we want. Or even a bear to get another vendor and dig through the deck even more. So we'll cut this here. We'll special our Pengu. And then we will draw 2 patchwork. And hey, saber. So look at that. My greed was rewarded. Here, patchwork doesn't do anything for us because if I'm not mistaken, we did already resolve it. Pitching the vendor is strong here, but I probably want to have an outlet for vendor to pitch on sabers. And I'm also setting a vendor that I can pitch the vendor with, so we are actually going to just pitch the sabers. Then we're going to penguin effect summon dolphin. We're going to dolphin effect. We're going to set. Oh, we actually don't have a vendor. I was mistaken. So we do actually have to pitch the vendor instead of the sabers here. So vendor here. Probably will get something like a dog because we have sabers in hand. Yeah, and we can pitch that with the vendor we reset, so I am actually going to get a dog. And again, like I hope this helps because again, it's kind of the thought process type of thing. So now we will dolphin effect and set the vendor. That's the kind of stuff you have to be cognizant of. I forgot that this hand didn't foolish burial goods because it was so crazy. So we're going to use that to bin our wings. Right on top of the deck, of course. Always. Always right there. So with that vendor, then we're going to overlay these into our Bahamut shark. I'll detach the, just in case I bring back the penguin with something. I don't have another one, so I think I am actually going to detach the penguin here. I'll probably be linking this off, but just in case. And we will summon our Totally Awesome. So then I am going to try to hit off of the vendor because I'm greedy. So we're going to vendor, and let's see what we rip. Bear! Okay, special dog. And then we will dog add our, again, sky's the limit here, crazy. We're going to add sheep. So here, we're hoping off of our wings access to get some, access to our Necro fusion play. But Scythe here helps because it's an alternate way to pop the artifact Scythe, and as well, we can use Dugares with a hand like this to dig a little bit deeper into the deck. So here, I almost want to link these two off and just get going a bit before I do my vendor draws, but I think the vendor draws might be the way to go first. Yeah, we'll do the vendor draws first. So there's the wings, and since I could pitch the bear first here in theory, actually. Yeah, I will pitch the bear first here, just to banish that. Just to thin the deck of, like, vendor cards, because I have all the Fluffal names that I want. I've got Octopus in rotation, I have Sheep, I have access to a Penguin in my graveyard, I can search a Penguin off of this vendor, so I would rather be trying to draw into Necrofusion or Meister or Lilith here. So, now we're going to, so we've set that, we're going to use our draws. So we'll banish the bear and the wings. So we'll draw here. Edge chain, it's not great, so let's see if we can hit. Penguin, it's not amazing. Okay, so we are going to have to set up the Edge Scythe play, which means we're probably going to use some resources to get a Dweller. So, here, off of this, I think, I probably want another level 4 that I can work with, so I actually think I want a Dolphin, because I've got one dog. I only have one dog in deck, so I think I'm going to get the Dolphin here. So because we didn't see Necrofusion, now we pivot the setup a little bit so that our Edge Imp Scythe is what is doing the heavy lifting for us. We could, in theory, do Garas to try to dig for more, but because my hand is so good, I think I'm just going to play it safe. And I mean, I could try to hit like Lilith off of Vendor, but that's playing the odds a little too much, I think. So we're going to, here, we're going to link these two off, the Shark and the Whale, into our Dogada. Then we're going to special the Sheep to bounce the Doggo. And then we'll chain Dogda to set our artifact Scythe. We'll split that up. And then we'll bounce and we will summon out our Edge Imp chain, I guess. Now, this hand we can actually recover a Toy Vendor if we wanted to, but I don't think we want to. I'd rather just keep the Scythe in hand because the cards in my hand are all quite good. So I think we're just going to go straight into Appaloosa here. Then we will repair to summon our Penguin. Penguin effect. We'll summon the Dolphin here just because I don't really care that much about recovering the vendor. This is fine. So special the Dolphin. And we will make our Abyss Dweller. Actually, here we're actually not getting the Penguin value, so I would consider holding until you can Toad to add a Penguin back from your graveyard. So you could Toad first to add Penguin back and then get this, but in a pinch you can just fuse with the dog, it's not that bad. You've already got your Edge Imp chain that you can use to get to a Fright for Fusion as well. So this setup is really strong. Again, it's the Dweller, Appaloosa Toad, and you have a way to pop the Scythe. It doesn't have the blow-up power of Necrofusion, but this will often be enough to get you there, and you have insane follow-up for next turn. Like especially if you like fusion summon, say you end up fusing with let's operate under the assumption that you negate a spell trap first, right? Because they don't understand maybe what way you are popping this in matchup. So let's say you've used your Toad, right? So Toad negate, you set that card to your field if you can. You get your penguin. Then you go, then you use your scythe to fuse into whale. Whale effect to pop the artifact scythe, and then cross heap effect to summon back your octopus. Octopus effect. So you pop the artifact scythe. Scythe will summon itself. Octopus effect to add back your penguin, and then you scythe locked them. And look at this. Look at this. It's 10 cards, and then you're drawing into 11. You've scythe locked them. You've popped a card on their field. You've negated one of their card effects. They can't use a graveyard, and you still got 3 monster negates with Appaloosa. It's just unbelievable what this deck can do. So I hope this has helped. We're going to do one more test hand. I'm hoping I'll probably keep going until I have a hand that shows off the Meister Lilith setup, because I think that's where some people get tripped up, is like, when do I need to make sure that I'm using my searches for that? And that is something to consider. So I'll probably do a few more of these just because I hope that they have been helpful, and then I might do a little segment at the end here going through some more advanced theory work around what you might do with the Fluffal cards here. This has been fun. This is a blast, and I hope that people watching this have had a blast playing this and learning it too. I do genuinely think this is good. This isn't a meme. This isn't me just picking something up. I wouldn't be playing this if I didn't think it was good, especially because Dinosaur is actually getting stronger into the upcoming format. But I really like this deck, and I think this is very cheap too. I probably, like, this was maybe worth about $80 Canadian. American depends on, like, USD, depends on your octopus valuations right now, but this can be built, absolutely built on a budget and compete with the meta. So we'll cut in half, we'll do 5 off the top. Let's see if we get one of the fabled hands that I like to call Oops, All Edge Imps. So we've got Bear, already an excellent start. Octopus, interesting. There's some utility here that can be had. Edge Imp Scythe, good insulation. Not great to open, but it is an Edge Imp name, so it's not bad. Bear, that kind of sucks. Strong multiples of that sucks. And Penguin. So this is actually going to rely pretty heavily on hitting off a vendor. This hand doesn't do that much. What we can do is we can actually, this hand can still set up a Scythe lock pretty easily. So I will show you how we can do that. But for now, let's see what we can do. So we'll pitch this Bear to set a vendor. Vendor here. And this is definitely going to be a big vendor hit, because this will determine if we get to keep playing or if we have to do like a very, very minimal setup here. So do that. So we're going to vendor. We are going to pitch the Bear just because we can do like Penguin to special summon Octopus to add back our Bear. Just a little bit of extra value. And it also still means that we can set up a Scythe lock and a pop on our opponent's turn, which is quite good. So we are going to pitch the Bear off of our vendor. Alright, gotcha game. What you got for us? Chain. I appear to never be punished by this deck. So you will discard the chain off of vendor, and you will chain effects, and we're gonna get patchwork. Oh man, I love Fluffal. Sometimes, like, this stuff happens on the regular where you think you're dead, and it just shows up for you. So we're going to patchwork here. God, this is so silly. Patchwork, because we've already used chain, we're going to get the Sabers, and Sabers is going to let us do the dolphin draws, and we'll get our polymerization as well. God, that is so good. Okay. Whew. That was very good. All right. So we're going to poly here. We are going to pop the vendor just so we can get our rings draws, and we get our penguins draws as well before we commit to our normal summon. So we'll see what we hit. We'll fuse these off for Tiger. We're saying we'll summon the secret. And then the ultra could be the disrupt. So we'll Tiger, pop the vendor, and then we will penguin to draw 2 and discard 1. So we will see Fluffal wings. That is interesting. And then Meister. Wow, we're just killing it with this army. Okay, so we're going to use our vendor search to get... is it worth getting Dolphin here? I have already used Bear's Effect. So since I've used Bear's Effect, we are actually going to get Dolphin. Because I need to have a vendor live. So we're going to get Dolphin here. So here, we're going to normal summon the Dolphin. Dolphin Effect. We're going to reset this vendor. We already have Octopus in rotation, and we already have Edge Sabers, and we've got the wings in hand. So I'm thinking we just send the extra Bear, because I would rather add the sheep off of a dog. although I haven't used Octopus Effect yet, so it might be good to send the sheep. I could also just add back the dog with the octopus. Yeah, we'll send the dog. We'll just send the dog. That's kind of a weird one. We have all of our targets already that we want, so I'm not that concerned about it. Here we could, in theory, stack something with the sabers, but I think I don't really want to right now. So we're just going to pitch the wings off of this vendor and see what we hit. Patchwork. Okay, well that doesn't matter. So we can dump that. We're going to fire our wings draws just to see if we have to use this Meister at all. There's an argument to be made for choosing to stack the octopus here because we can just add it back off of the vendor. But I think I would rather do my draws and see what we get. So we're going to wings, banishing one of our bears. And we're going to do our draws. And the nice thing about this setup is, right, at minimum, this is still Scythe Lock. This is still Scythe Lock, Necrofusion, Pop. So, and also another disruption with the Edge Scythe, and that can recycle the wings. So even if these draws are not great, you're still in an excellent position to win the game. So we will draw the Artifact Scythe. That's not great, but it does mean that we don't have to go into Dogda, which is cool. So we'll pitch the vendor, Fool's Burial Goods. That's not amazing. We don't have fusion access, but there are some tricks that we can do here that we can mess with. So we're going to use our vendor search here. I think just for recovery's sake, we're going to get the sheep is actually quite interesting here, because sheep lets us keep a lot of stuff in hand. So I do think I'm actually going to do sheep, and it lets us summon back this for the Meister. So we're going to get sheep here. So this is some advanced. This is maybe some more advanced Fluffal theory. This is going to be actually a more minimal setup, but this will show off the Meister into Lilith interaction. And this is a really cool thing that you can do with sheep to loop Meister stuff. So we're going to special summon the sheep. We're going to sheep to bring back our dolphin, and then we're going to dolphin, and then we're going to special summon back the sabers here. And what's cool about this is you can then just activate Meister to tribute the sabers to summon back your Lilith. Just summon the Lilith from deck. Here, Foolish Burial Goods doesn't really do us any good. We might fire it off just to thin the deck a little bit, but we're going to fire it off Lilith's effect here. Necro. 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 Our opponent will select Necrofusion. Because we don't have to go through Dogda, we can actually end on a cross shape here. And another interesting thing is that, just to dig through the deck a little bit more, we can do some Barricadeborg Blocker setups here. That will get us our octopus in the graveyard, because we have the sabers to do some stacking with. So I think we'll just FB goods here, because I have an FB goods, right? Nope. Okay. So FB goods a vendor. Just dig through a bit more. Vendor, probably penguin. Yeah, might as well be. Penguin. That's pretty reasonable top deck. So we'll do that. Then we will sabers here to stack the penguin, I think. Yeah. Well, no, I want to keep the penguin as an option actually. We'll stack dolphin to make to summon the sabers. And again, sheep enabled that, so that we could do Meister shenaniganry. We'll link off the sabers and the sheep here into our Barricadeborg. We'll Barricadeborg discard the octopus so we can summon it back. And then we will link off the tiger and the Borg into a cross sheep. So in the end phase, oh, and make sure that you set your artifact site, obviously. And then in the end phase, you're going to add back a toy vendor. So your opponent is going to think that you messed up. Yeah, your opponent is going to think that you screwed up, just completely messed up everything, and this is going to look really weird. But check this out: your combo has still gone +2, and you're gonna get even more advantage here, right? So once your opponent commits to the board, I would actually lead with the Edge Scythe, because you can blow them out with the Necrofusion after if they have a disruption for your Cruel Whale. So we're gonna Edge Scythe and Penguin into our whale. And also something interesting about that hand is, like, we fusion summoned into one tiger, we didn't make whale. You can play without doing the whales and repair. So you're going to summon that whale. You're going to make sure that your cross sheep is Chain Link 1, just so that octopus will trigger. So then you will probably go, you'll go penguin draws, obviously, and then and your whale pop. Then then you will chain this to send the repair, just so you don't draw it. Although drawing the repair would be nice here, but I mean, you might as well just get it out of the deck. You'll do your penguin rips here. And again, this is just really strong. I would probably get rid, just so you can hard, because you can hard poly here, I would get rid of the vendor. And then you can special summon back your octopus. Octopus will add you back your penguin. Oh, and you've popped the scythe here. So the scythe will summon itself out. Octopus gets you back your penguin. The vendor that you discarded from your penguin draws will probably get you a dog. And so you have another hard poly play here. And your Necrofusion is still live. So you've scythe locked them. Even if they out the scythe lock, you still have a Necrofusion for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could Necrofusion them for 5 cards if you wanted. And so you Necrofusion, you flip that out, you summon the tiger, you clear their whole board, and then you draw for turn. Look at this. It's unbelievable. And again, this hand was really, really good. It did lead to like a slightly weirder version of the setup, and we didn't get to totally awesome, but this is still extremely strong. Necrofusion is hard to interact with. If you set up that Edge Imp Scythe as part of your combo with like your extra searches, or if you just draw it natively, you can hold your Necrofusion to make it be a blow-off later. Just very, very, very strong. This is already a pretty long video, but I think I'll do one more just because I'm having a lot of fun with this. And I think just like, again, like brute forcing hands is one of the best ways to learn this. It is complicated, again, like as you can see, like through this, all of the pathways are very different, but I'm pretty confident that if anybody puts the time in to learning how to pilot this, they can definitely succeed, especially because it's so cheap. You can build this really inexpensively. So we'll do one more. Let's see if we can get a good old-fashioned brick for all time's sake, and then I will show off the Droll playthrough combo, which is very nice because Droll is definitely a weakness of this deck. And that's something to consider for the upcoming format. And I'll also discuss some side deck theory and some very strong side deck options you can play, or main deck options if you choose to blind second and then side into the Necro package, like I did for the Chalice Monthly. So we will shuffle this up. And while I'm here, huge shout outs to Outback YGO and Mr. Ease, and also Kitsunebula on the Necrofusion Discord, and some people that I knew from before. Absolutely instrumental in building and labbing and innovating in this. I am just one of many, and the goal is to get as many people on this as possible. So if this interests you, definitely come join us in the Necrofusion Discord and pick this up, because our goal is to try to make some waves. We think this is good, and we want to try to get people on it. Okay, let's do one more, and then we will call it for the test hands. So we'll cut 5 off the top. Okay. So then we're going to draw our hand. Foolish Burial Goods, already the hand is busted, already very strong. Penguin, it's even better, wonderful. Patchwork, well, I was hoping to get a bad hand. Okay, this hand has some weaknesses, but there's just some really stupid stuff. Let's see where it goes. We'll lead with the Patchwork. I like leading with, in theory, you could lead with this just so that if you get drolled, you can end on Toad, but I like to live dangerously, so we'll lead with the Patchwork. Just in case like we want a hard poly for penguin draws for some reason. So we'll get this. We already have the Scythe here because here I'm going to get Edge Imp Chain because we can get Sabers later in the combo, and this can get us to Meister in case we don't draw Lilith and Necro. Okay, so we'll cut there. We will FB Goods. And this is why FB Goods is so strong. It sets up Dolphin. And it gets you anything you need. So we'll do that. And the nice thing about doing it this way is that if they gamma your penguin, you can use Chain and the Poly with your penguin to get a Cruel Whale, and then that can send repair to special the Dolphin. So having the second penguin here is actually really, really cool. So we're gonna normal our penguin. Penguin affects special Dolphin. You've seen this before. This is kind of a bread and butter. Is Penguin FB Goods or Dolphin FB Goods into this setup, just because it's very strong and it gets you your Toad, and then if your Bahamut Shark is interrupted, you just continue with your plays. And it's really nice that this hand is actually insulated against Gamma on Penguin, and that is a choke point, but it's not a death sentence. You have a lot of hands that can play through Gamma on Penguin or an interruption there. Ash on Dolphin here definitely is interesting, but again, you still have all your draws. This hand already is just Scythelock. It is pretty much guaranteed to be Scythelock. And probably a bit more. So we're gonna overlay for a Bahamut. Bahamut Shark here. I'll detach the Dolphin just to make sure we keep a Penguin in rotation, even though we have one in hand. And we will summon our Toad. Here, I am not going to use the effect of Toy Vendor because I don't want to. There are reasons here that you wouldn't. So you could, in theory, fire your Penguin draws first and then see, because we're repairing here. And I actually do think that's what we're going to do here, because if we can find a way to get value off of digging through our deck with a vendor, we might as well. So I'm going to poly. We're going to fuse these away. And if I can draw first and then like adjust my game plan based on what I see. So like I can order it so that I can either search the Meister or I can draw with Penguin first to see if I actually need to search Meister. So we're going to make our whale. Always middle zone. So we'll send this. I'll send the repair. I think for the sake of argument, I will add the Meister just to show you guys how you can pivot if you draw something that you don't like to see off of it, like a Lilith or something. So we are going to get Meister here. Fight for Meister. And then we will do our Penguin draws. So we'll cut this in half. So we'll draw. Polymerization. So we've drawn Necrofusion. So we no longer actually need this Meister at all. So we are going to get rid of it. Poly may come up. Depends. There's some Sabertooth plays that are funny. So we will get rid of the Meister here. Then we will flip this up. There's nothing that we really want to discard off of the vendor. Keeping the poly in hand is nice when we've drawn Necrofusion, so we're just going to go ahead and wings here. And what's nice about wings is that we can get our dog for like extra link plays. If we see more Fluffals off of our draws, then we can get a Penguin and we can extend much further. So there's very cool stuff we can do. And what's nice about having the repair here is that we can keep this Cruel Veil here, do some summons, and get full advantage of our cross sheep. And as well, we can also get access to our sabers, so we're going to likely be doing that. So let's wings. Here we will banish the Dolphin just to keep the Penguin in graveyard for cross sheep. So we will draw. There, perfect, excellent. Send the vendor, draw again. Another bear, less good, workable. I actually think here, just to guarantee that our Necrofusion is in the best possible position to do well, we are actually going to get sabers here, and we're just going to try to hit off of one of our bears. So we're going to get sabers. Because again, like ending on Toad cross sheep is perfectly fine. It's very strong. So here I feel like I might as well guarantee, because we see Necrofusion, I'm going to guarantee it's a blowout. So we're going to do bear and pitch for vendor. Set the vendor. And we also have a free summon here with the repair as well. So there are definitely, so we can summon the bear and then do bear things and get value off of our cross sheep that way. So there are definitely options. Flip the vendor. Let's see what we nick. Patchwork. That's fine. Okay. So since we didn't hit off of that, we could use the repair here and then stack the poly with the sabers. That might be lower value. I think that is actually the way to do it, just because I want to get the value off of the cross sheep. I might as well. So we're going to yeah. So I'll special the bear here, and we'll banish the repair, and then we'll cross sheep. And then here you could pass. You can also stack the poly. I feel like you might as well stack the poly, honestly. You might as well just get more bodies, because here you can still make like you can still do stuff. So next saber trigger effect, summon Penguin. And here you can bluff your opponent into thinking that you have something like really devastating. So like if you end on the Dagda here, it's kind of nice because it's a bit of a bluff. You could, in theory, Barricadeborg, discard the scythe, but I don't think we do this. And it also bluffs that you might have a Negent. So that is nice to just have. So we'll set these. And again, This hand had a couple of interesting quirks. You could have played it a few different ways. There may have been a better pathway based on the draws. Sometimes you have to just go with what you've got. But again, this is still just unbelievably strong. You've got your Omni Negate that can add you back a water. You've still got 3 Fluffals engraved to banish, so you can pop. So you can pop up to 4 cards if you choose to banish all of them. And then here you could summon back like your Edge Imp Chain, so you could search a Patchwork once you summon your Tiger. And you can maybe keep a Penguin. So you can choose to do this. Again, like the possibilities are endless. You need to keep a space for Scythe here, so here you might wait till you Toad to do stuff. It depends on the situation. You have a lot of flexibility, but that's that. So I think the last thing I will do is I will show you guys the Droll playthrough combo, like the minimum setup. It's a 3-card combo, definitely not uncommon to see, and it shows like this. The Necro Fusion does offer you insulation against Droll at the cost of a little bit of consistency. So I'll pause the recording here, and we'll see you back in a bit. Alright, I believe we should be back, and I'm going to show you guys the Droll playthrough combo. This requires any random card in your hand to discard either of Penguin or Dolphin, any way to get Vendor in the graveyard, and Necrofusion. So there are more hands that do this, but the simplest hand is like FB Goods, Penguin or Dolphin, and Necrofusion. So we're going to lead off with the goods. You're going to send your Vendor, and you're going to add Dolphin. Here, we're going to assume that your opponent has drawn the bird, so it is Droll and Lock Bird. So no more searches for you, but that is okay. This is still Scythe Lock, Pop 2, and a totally awesome, and I'll show you how to do that. So here, you're going to normal your Penguin. Penguin effect to special Dolphin. Dolphin effect to reset the Vendor, and then you're going to Foolish Edge Imp Sabers instead of the Wings, because we can't draw this turn. So we're going to send our Sabers here. So now that we've done that, you're going to overlay these two into... This combo is also insulated from Nibiru, by the way, which is crazy. So you're going to overlay into Bahamut Truck. Bahamut Truck effect, detach, whichever. It doesn't matter because you're linking off the Bahamut anyway. To summon your Totally Awesome. Then you're going to take your random card, stack it on top of the deck, and special summon your Sabers. Then you link these two into Dogda. You can do a similar setup. If you see like Dog, FB Goods, and Necrofusion, you would send that and then like add Sabers as your insulation. There are a couple of like other like niche scenarios that you can do stuff with. But for the sake of argument, we'll say that like this is like the easiest way to set this up. So then you're going to set Necrofusion. So you still have one other card in your hand, so you've ended up advantage neutral, which is very nice. And then on your opponent's turn, you have the Toad, which can tribute itself and then add back a Fluffal if you want, or you can use them all for Tiger Pops. But you're going to Necrofusion, and then when you Necrofusion, you can chain Dogda, just in case your opponent hasn't activated any effects. And then you're going to set your Scythe. If they only have one card here, you could technically, you could think about summoning the Whale here just to send the Repair from deck. But for the sake of argument, let's say we Tiger, right? So you can either pop 2 of their cards with Tiger, or you can keep one of your waters to add back with Toad, or you could just banish them all and summon your Tiger, pop 2 of their cards, and then one of their card, like both of these, and then get an add and stuff. But so you have some decisions basically. But let's say maybe you keep your Penguin just engraved, just for example. So then you summon your Tiger, you pop this Scythe, and you destroy 1 or 2 of their cards. Send back Scythe Lock. So it's still Scythe Lock Toad, pop 1 or 2, a Vendor for next turn, 1 other card in your hand, and your Toad can potentially be Recovery if you don't try to blow out their board a little bit more. So even this like scuffed setup is still really, really strong. So yeah, that I think will about do it for the test hand section. So I'm gonna pause this up. Well, this was a combo, I guess. So we're gonna pause it up, and then I'm going to zip over to some side deck theory work. Alright, we are back, and now I'm going to talk about some side deck things. So, for starters, you should side deck at least 1 Lancia. Again, I mentioned earlier in the video, but it's because you can do some really funny Dogda tricks with this. And it's nice because if Scythe isn't going to be like necessarily great, but Lancia is going to be good, you can set it off of your dog den and then have access to it, which is really nice. So I would definitely at least play one. You can play more if the meta like matches it, but definitely play the one for sure. Edgem Scythe, you should be siding into this. Seeing this with Penguin is just ridiculous. It's draw 2, discard 1, and you can often, like, that discard can be Vendor or Chain, and you can plus off of that. But it's also like Whale pop in your opponent's turn. You can clear the Whale if you want, or you can protect it. This is really nice for popping your opponent's seal. And the nice thing about siding in slots in this deck is going second, you just take out the Necrofusion package. You take out your Necrofusion, you take out 1-for-1, you take out the Meister and the Lilith, and that's 6. Or the 1-for-1, with the 1-for-1 6. You can take out the Artifact Scythe if you think that you're going to OTK and you don't want to like set it up later with an Edgem Scythe. So you have a lot of free space to side out in this deck, which is really, really nice. But definitely, like, Edgem Scythe is just really ridiculous to see. And like, you can also send a repair off of the Whale that you summon to disrupt them, so it's fine. It's a hand trap that sends an extender that destroys a card, and if you see it with Penguin, you can also just draw cards. Crazy. And something that will help you see this more often is Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, aka Thanos. I have mixed rarities because I am like that. This card is really, really crazy when you're going second, and I would definitely recommend you consider this in the side. If not the main, if you decide to blind second like I did for the Chalcine Monthly. Having this to just summon and then draw and fix your hand, but have a higher chance to see Scythe with Penguin, or to see like something like Forbidden Droplet if you have access to it, or another card I'm going to talk about here. Not to mention just having an extra body on board that you can link off for a Cross Sheep to do more plays. Just incredible card. It's solely just like you see your side deck outs more. Like the extra body is nice, the targeting negate is quite nice, as it so it can serve as like a discard outlet in that sense if they have something that targets like a tidying or something. The fact that you have a higher chance to see Scythe with a Penguin, or if you don't see a Fluffal, you can just put the Scythe back and then it's not just sitting dead in your hand. Just a very incredible card, such good for setup, so definitely consider playing this in your side deck or your main deck. And the last card I want to talk about, I do have to shout out the person who came up with this, or at least the person who introduced Outback and I to it, Action YGO. I will link their channel in the description. This deck was brilliant. I was skeptical when I heard about it, and then I watched it and I checked it out. It's really good. So, it is Eldritch the Golden Lord. You might only play 2, maybe 3 if you're going second, but this card is absurd. And you're not playing any other engine stuff, you are just playing the Golden Lord. Here's why. Imagine you have a Vendor in your hand and you're going second, right? And they got a problem on board like Floodgate, or a Seal, or a Hot Red, or something like that, or a back row that you don't want to deal with. Golden Lord effect, pitch Toy Vendor. So they have to respond to this, or you clear it out. So you clear out that back row, or you clear out that problem monster, or you clear out that Floodgate, or whatever is causing you issues, right? Vendor search. Get Bear. Bear effect. Bear effect. Set Vendor. Activate Vendor. Golden Lord effect, send Vendor. Add to hand, special, 3500, indestructible. Not only do you have a 3500 indestructible Bungus, that is an extender for link plays, that was also removal in your hand previously in the turn. This helps with OGKs, and it also helps you play into stuff like Torrential. Toy Vendor effect to search. Oops, my deck definitely exploded. That is okay. Add Dolphin. Normal Dolphin. Dolphin set Vendor. Vendor send Wings. Eldritch the Golden Lord itself, with the Toy Vendor as your 2-card open, has set up your Wings draws, 2 bodies on the board to link into a Cross Sheep, or just 2 bodies to help OTK. And you have also reset your Toy Vendor. So potentially you've used your Toy Vendor, like once if you've had your Toy Vendor, right? So you pitched it, you bring it up, you can pitch it once here, pitch once for it here, and then you can get your Wings draws. So like the utility of this card is so beautiful. And like if you have it in going first, like if your opponent makes you go first, it's totally fine. Because you can just go Vendor, pitch Lord, try to hit off of it. If not, you just send to summon Lord and get your Dolphin. And then you can link off your Dolphin with this, and then that's Dolphin and Wings in case you didn't see any Fluffals in your graveyard. So going first, it's an extender. Going second, it's removal that also extend your plays. Just, I understand people might be skeptical about this because it looks weird, but Action Y Geo absolutely sold me on this. It performed amazingly over the Chalice sign. It is such a strong option. So if you have access to these, definitely get the cheaper prints because, come on, it's the Golden Lord. You gotta have it in gold. But please try this. It is really cool. I main deck 2 of them in the blind second game 1 version where I side into Necro, and it was just incredible all day. So absolutely do consider this. Anyways, that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for sitting through what is probably like an unbelievably long video. I really hope that this helped. I hope that the test hands gave you an example of how you can use good hands to combo off, and maybe how you can turn some awkward situations to your advantage, and maybe how you could shift and pivot your end boards as you see stuff come up. If anybody, I'll probably like upload a Dropbox with my replays in the description. If I don't, feel free to message me and I can provide you my Chalice Line monthly replays so you can see like the downsides of this deck when it doesn't work and the upsides of this deck when it really goes. Also, I will link the Necro Fusion Discord and the Fluffal Discord in the description. Both places are absolutely indispensable if you're looking to pick up and learn or discuss any of your deck options here. In the upcoming format, I think this will be good. You'll have to consider Droll, but I really truly think that if people take the time to like read these cards, put their own ideas into this, we could band together and make Fluffal a legit force in the upcoming meta for Lightning Overdrive and even post-September ban list, and post-July ban list as well. We have a really strong chance to do well with this. So thank you very much. I have been Giant Skyhawk, and I will see you in the next one.